Welcome to the deep dive. You know, we talk about heart failure treatments fairly often, but today we've got something that really stood out, an announcement from BioCardia. Looks like a potentially significant step.
Absolutely. We're going to dig into this news they released about starting their phase 3 CardiAMP HF II clinical trial. And it's not just, a small tweak. This could be a fundamentally different way of using a patient's own biology.
Exactly. So our mission here is to really unpack why this specific trial feels important. We've got the press release right here, and it outlines, well, what could be a really innovative path for treating heart failure.
And I think what's really interesting, especially if you want to grasp the significance quickly, is that this therapy uses the patient's own cells, trying to heal the heart from the inside out, basically. It's a really fascinating idea.
Okay, let's get into it then. The big news. BioCardia enrolled the first patient in this phase 3 trial, CardiAMP HF II. Happened May 1st, 2025, down at Baycare Morton Plant Hospital in Florida.
Right. And it's really important how they're setting this up to get clear answers. It's randomized.
Meaning patients get assigned by chance.
Exactly. To either the actual therapy or a placebo.
Yeah.
And it's placebo-controlled, so you have that comparison group getting something inactive. And critically, double-blind. Neither the patients nor the researchers know who's getting what until it's all over. That's, the gold standard for minimizing bias.
Right, keeps everything objective. So what is this therapy? CardiAMP cell therapy. What's the core idea?
Well, at its heart, it's an autologous cell therapy. Auto meaning self.
Oh, okay.
So it uses the patient's own bone marrow cells. They collect them from the patient. And then using a catheter in a minimally invasive procedure, they deliver those cells right to the heart muscle.
Minimally invasive. That definitely sounds better for patients. But how does it work? What do the cells do once they're in the heart?
Well, the thinking is that these specific cells can sort of jumpstart the body's natural repair processes.
Okay.
The aim is to encourage new tiny blood vessels to grow. That's increasing capillary density and also to reduce scarring or fibrosis in the heart muscle. It's really targeting what's called microvascular dysfunction, problems with the heart's smallest blood vessels.
So it's not just masking symptoms. It sounds like it's trying to fix some of the underlying damage.
That's precisely the goal, hitting those core issues, the fibrosis, the inflammation, even cell death, and problems with how nerves regulate the heart's blood vessels.
And how does it do that? Magic.
Not quite magic. It seems to work largely by prompting the treated area to produce helpful things like growth factors, cytokines, chemokines, basically signaling molecules that tell the body to heal and regenerate.
Gotcha. And I saw in the release it mentioned an FDA breakthrough designation. What does that actually mean in practice?
Oh, that's a really big deal. The FDA gives that designation to therapies that show early promise for serious conditions and look like they could be a substantial improvement over what's already available.
So it's more than just paperwork.
Much more. It signals the FDA sees real potential here for a significant advance. It can also help speed things up a bit, attract more focus, more investment. It highlights therapies the agency thinks are particularly important.
Okay, so fascinating therapy, trying to heal the heart using its own cells.
Yeah.
Got this FDA nod. Why is this specific trial, CardiAMP HF II, such a critical next step?
Because this is the confirmatory phase 3.
Yeah.
The earlier studies built the case, provided the initial signals.
Right.
Phase 3 is where you need to generate that really robust, large-scale evidence. This is the kind of data needed for potential regulatory approval to actually get the therapy out there to patients.
Makes sense. So what are the specifics? How many people, what kind of heart failure are they looking at?
They're aiming for 250 patients across multiple hospitals, and the focus is on people with ischemic heart failure with reduced ejection fraction, or HFrEF.
Okay, so heart failure often caused by blocked arteries where the heart isn't pumping strongly.
Exactly. And importantly, these are patients who are already on the standard recommended medications, but they still have high levels of a blood marker called NT-proBNP. That marker basically shows the heart is under significant strain.
So a specific group that needs more options. What's the main outcome they're measuring? What do they hope to prove?
The main goal is really to confirm the safety and the effectiveness that they saw hints of in the earlier CardiAMP HF study. They're using a very similar main measurement tool.
What does that involve? What are they tracking?
It's a composite endpoint, meaning it combines a few key things into one measure. It's tiered, actually.
Tiered. How so?
Tier 1, the most serious, is death from any cause. Tier 2 is major non-fatal heart problems, things like heart attacks, strokes, needing urgent procedures.
Okay.
And Tier 3 looks at the patient's quality of life, using a standardized questionnaire where patients report how they feel and function.
So looking at survival, major events, and how patients actually feel day to day, that seems comprehensive.
It is. And what's really encouraging, they point this out, is that in the original CardiAMP HF trial, this combined endpoint was statistically significant, meaning likely not due to chance, specifically in that group with the high anti-pro-BNP levels.
The same group they're focusing on now.
Precisely. They reported a p-value of 0.02, which in stats terms is pretty strong evidence suggesting a real effect in that population.
Okay, now this is where it gets even more interesting for me. The announcement mentions some advancements, some upgrades for this trial. What's new?
Yeah, a couple of key things. One is using cell population analysis when they screen patients.
What does that mean?
It means they actually analyze the types and potency of cells in the patient's bone marrow sample before treatment. This allows them to potentially personalize the dose.
Personalize the dose
Oh,
based on the individual cells.
exactly. Tailoring it. This could potentially make it work better for each person and maybe even allow more patients to be eligible for the therapy in the first place.
Wow, that sounds like a real move towards precision medicine, not just one size fits all. What are the hurdles there, though? Does that add a lot of complexity?
Oh, definitely. I mean, logistically, analyzing cell populations for every single patient adds steps, requires sophisticated tech, and we're still learning exactly which cell characteristics matter most. But yeah, the potential benefit of tailoring the treatment is huge.
For sure. And the other big improvement was in the delivery system, the hardware.
Right. The Helix system, the catheter they use to deliver the cells, has been upgraded. It now incorporates the MorphDNA steerable platform, which is already FDA approved.
And Morph DNA. That allows for better steering, I assume.
Precisely. It gives the physician much finer control to navigate inside the heart and deliver those cells exactly where they need to go, to the most damaged areas. More targeted delivery.
Makes sense. Better targeting should lead to better results, you'd think. The release also quoted some of the doctors involved. What did they have to say?
Well, Dr. Leslie Miller, who's a principal investigator, sounded genuinely enthusiastic. He talked about being excited to offer this, highlighting the personalized aspect, and also making the point that patients can still receive all their other standard heart failure treatments alongside this. It doesn't replace anything.
That's an important practical point. And Dr. Sharma, he did the first procedure in this new trial.
Yes, and he specifically commented on the delivery system. He seemed really impressed with the targeting ability of the Helix platform now, especially with that new MorphDNA catheter. It kind of reinforces that the tech upgrades are noticeable in practice.
Okay. And then there's Peter Altman, BioCardia CEO. He's looking at the bigger picture, right?
Yeah, his focus is clearly on the path forward,
Yeah.
getting this therapy approved and available. He mentioned they're already working on regulatory submissions in Japan and the U.S. using the data they already have. But he stressed how crucial this phase 3 trial, CardiAMP HF II is for actually securing those approvals, getting doctors to adopt it, and importantly, getting insurance companies to cover it. Reimbursement is key.
Right. So zooming out again, what's the broader context here? How does this fit into the larger landscape of heart failure treatment?
Well, it's interesting to note the support this has received. The Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund has backed it, and even CMS Medicare and Medicaid Services has provided reimbursement for the clinical development side of things for CardiAMP and heart failure.
That kind of backing suggests people see real potential, doesn't it?
It does. Support from government and funding agencies often reflects a belief in the potential significance of the research.
But as always with these things, there's a necessary disclaimer, a reality check in the announcement, too.
Yes, absolutely crucial. Under U.S. law, CardiAMP cell therapy is still investigational. It is not approved for general use. You can only get it within a clinical trial like this one right now.
Good reminder. So lots of excitement and promise, but still firmly in the research phase.
Exactly. This phase 3 trial is really the make or break step to see if this potential can translate into a real-world, widely available treatment for these patients.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. The big takeaway seems to be that starting this phase 3 CardiAMP HF II trial is a really significant moment. It's testing this personalized cell therapy for heart failure, building on some positive earlier signs, and using some cool new tech for analyzing cells and delivering them more precisely.
And I think the final thought, maybe something for you to chew on, is just the sheer potential of using a patient's own biology, their own cells, to fight back against a complex disease like heart failure. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this works, could it pave the way for more therapies that harness the body's innate healing power, moving beyond just managing symptoms with drugs? It's potentially a profound shift in medicine to consider.
Absolutely. A really different paradigm. And for you, the listener, if this has piqued your interest, you might want to look up the results from the original CardiAMP HF trial, or maybe read more about autologous cell therapy for heart disease in general. The BioCardia website or clinical trial registries usually have links and more details. Definitely worth exploring if you want to go deeper.
Yeah. Certainly an area to watch. It highlights the ongoing innovation happening in this field and the real hope that personalized approaches might offer better outcomes for people living with heart failure. We'll keep an eye on how this trial progresses.